after he is back from the stage. As we figured out yesterday, that works the best. So please, Simon, enter the territory on the podium. And afterwards, when you're done talking, so to say, please enter the space across the rows with people so that everyone can hear you, and more importantly, everyone can raise questions. Just to maybe wait a bit longer before we jump into the speech so that everyone can arrive, I can give you a bit of update of what happened so far. So yesterday in the same space, we had a quite insightful presentation from Ilya, and we discussed the already submitted projects on the trip.data interface. So solar potential was the topic, elevation was one of the topics, and pedestrian crossings were also discussed. So if you haven't been able to participate, you can always check either the discussions on GitHub or the already submitted projects on Trip.dat. And in general, the 4 o'clock meetings are also live streamed. So after the event, you will have a chance to access them again. And just like yesterday, we had in the format in the afternoon, we spent approximately half an hour, 35 minutes on discussing the main topic the speaker proposed. And then afterwards, we had a chance to look into the individual projects that you all have been working on. So just please grab the spotlight and the stage if you would like to share and want to motivate others to join your project or to tell about your roadblocks, ask questions, and support. And I think I stop here and let Simon take the stage.
Okay. So, can you guys see my screen now?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's a yes. Is it working? Can you hear me? Yeah? Okay, and you can see the screen. Perfect. Okay, good. Thanks a lot. This is the first time for me using this tool, so I don't really know how it's working. So welcome everybody. My name is Simon Rösch. I work at Ubique. I'm the head of the Android department there. And I would like to talk to you today about the Open Swiss Maps SDK that we launched on Monday, and head of the Android department. If you have questions during the way, please feel free to interrupt me if that's possible. Otherwise, ask me at the end. That's also fine. Yeah, so let's dive into it. What is the Open Swiss Maps SDK? It's an SDK that should make it easy for you to use Swiss Topo maps and all the other data that they provide in your mobile apps. Is it an iOS app or an Android app? Both of that should work easily for you. We launched this together with the Open Government Data release on Monday. I guess everybody here heard of that, so this should not be a surprise. And yeah, we would like to offer with that an easy way to use the data and build your own applications on top of it. I will, in the first part, quickly go through the architecture of our SDK, how we built it, why we built it, and then in the second half, give a brief introduction on how you can use the SDK yourself. So first of all, let me give you a quick overview over the architecture of the SDK, because the SDK itself is built in multiple layers. So on the top layer, what in the end should be used by most people that want to integrate Swiss Topo maps in their apps is the Open Swiss Maps SDK. But The Open Swiss Maps SDK itself is not really big. Most of the hard work, let's say it like that, is done in the Open Mobile Maps SDK, which is also new. We launched this already a week ago as a first step. So I'll first go a bit into the Open Mobile Maps SDK, because that's where actually the magic happens. The Open Swiss Maps SDK basically is only configuring the Open Mobile Maps SDK and making it a bit easier to actually use Swiss topo maps. While the Open Mobile Maps is built in a generic way and can integrate any kind of maps data. The Open Mobile Maps itself is then built on top of a graphics core, which basically provides us basic graphics operations that we can then implement on Android and on iOS, because on Android we're using OpenGL as a rendering platform, and on iOS we are using Metal, which is the newer standard there, while OpenGL is already deprecated on iOS. So architecture in detail, no, I will not go into all the details. What you can see here is not all of it, just to scare you off or make a little joke. I would rather stay on a much higher level and talk about a bit why did we build Open Mobile Maps. And I mean, isn't there already enough map SDKs out there? Talk about maybe yes. Why did we build Open Mobile Maps? The reason to build Open Mobile Maps, isn't there already enough map that we have out there? Talk about over the past 10 years. Why quite a lot of apps build for us? Most of them, most of you will probably know that use maps in various ways, but in the end, it all uses kind of the same technology how to display map data. Is it in a Swiss topo app where you actually have the main functionality to display maps, or is it in a Meteo Swiss app where you want to display weather data on a map, or is it an Alert Swiss app where you want to display warnings on a map? So all those apps we built all use their own maps, and we have kind of the need to build those apps in a very performant way. So we want to own also the map implementation ourselves, so that we are only limited kind of by the hardware, but not any other SDK that we depend on. And all this knowledge that we built up over the past years is now combined into this Open Mobile Maps. Not everything is in there yet, so this will be a continuous process of adding all the things that we need in there, and then also enable all our apps to use this, to have like one common ground of code where we can use the benefits from all the work from all the apps all together. And to make this happen, we also created open source. So if anybody else wants to use it, they can use it as well. So what should the Open Mobile Maps SDK be? It should be, first of all, optimized for mobile performance. So that's really what we do. We create mobile apps, and so therefore also our Maps SDK should be optimized really for performance and work as smoothly as somehow possible. We want to have it in an extendable architecture. That's mainly for the reason that we will have some features that build on top of this SDK ourselves. Not all of that will be open source. It might be for customers that don't want to make all of their features open source. So we really need the SDK to be built in a way that we can extend it for additional features, which then also has the benefit that other people can take the SDK and build their features on top as well. And then last but not least, it should be fully customizable and configurable. So it should work in any scenario. Is it a map here on Switzerland, or You could even use it to display maps on Mars with it. This should all work together. So maybe a bit more on the technical side, what do we use to create this SDK under the hood? For most parts of the code, we actually use C++. This has the advantage that we only have to write the code once for iOS and Android together. And we also have a language that has good performance on both platforms because we can compile it to native code. Then, as previously mentioned, for the rendering, we use OpenGL on Android and Metal on iOS. To make our lives a bit easier when working with C++ code on those platforms, we use a framework called Genie. Genie was originally developed by Dropbox, and we started using it a couple of years back and then started doing our own extensions. For example, we included also the support for Kotlin directly for Android. What Genie does is basically define interfaces between C++ code and Android and iOS code in a meta language, and then generates all the glue code that is needed to connect between the different frameworks. So on Android, for example, it generates you all the JNI code that is needed to convert your C++ data structures to Java or Kotlin data structures. So this is very helpful because it then allows you to just define the interfaces and don't need to figure out all the hassle yourself. In the end, for the kind of client interface, we use Kotlin on Android and Swift on iOS. So we use the modern languages there, and we also allow for most of the features to extend them in Kotlin or Swift directly. So if you want to do an extension for the SDK, you don't necessarily have to write that in C++. You can also write extensions only in Kotlin and Swift. You will then just have to do it for both platforms separately. So what does the Open Mobile Maps SDK do? It gives you a map interface where you can interact with the map with touch gestures as you are familiar with that on a mobile device. So this is really the basics of zooming and moving around and all the things, rotating, all the things you expect of a simple map application. Then, of course, when you're working with geographic data, you always have coordinates and you always have different coordinate systems. So we also do coordinate conversions. This is also done in a way that you can extend it. So if you have your own coordinate system that you want to use, you can write your own converter and add it to the list so that you can use these additional coordinates as well. Then, at the moment, the biggest part is that we can display tiled raster layers. So maps that are provided as images, we can display them. The SDK does the loading of the tiles and shows them in a smooth way so that we have a good map experience. Then, of course, you can add your own layers on top. So you can create polygon layers where you define polygons. And you can also add icon layers where you add pins or whatever icons you want to add to your map, which you then can click at to open some details about whatever is displayed on the map. And just recently, we also added WMTS capability parser, which allows you to pass a WMTS XML to it and then display the specified maps directly. So that's pretty cool that you can directly use that as your configuration. So this is so far the overview over the Open Mobile Maps SDK. As said previously, these features are all included also in the Open Swiss Maps SDK. What is added there additionally is that Swiss topo maps are the default. You can simply add a view, as we will see in a minute, and have directly a Swiss topo map. While in the Open Mobile Maps, there's no like map provider pre-configured. So this is really just the basics that you can use to then additionally add your own data. So with this, we already come to the second part of how can we use the Open Swiss Maps SDK. Short answer, it is easy to use. For Android, you simply add the Gradle dependency to the SDK, add the Swiss topo map view somewhere in your view hierarchy, and then register the lifecycle, which we need to handle resources correctly. And then you're already there. This will display the Swiss topo map in its default map configuration. You can change the base layer of the map. If you want, for example, to have the Swiss topo aerial images as your base layer, you can configure this. On iOS, it looks more or less the same. So there you use Swift Package Manager to define the dependency. And then also you create your view controller with your Swiss topo map view in it. And that's basically it. Also on iOS, you can obviously change the base layer. So with this, you already have a map that you can display, that you can zoom in, that you can rotate, and basically use as a simple map application already. But of course, most applications probably want to add more data. So what you can do is add more layers, either Swiss topo layers on one hand. So Swiss topo provides a lot of data that you can directly add. So you simply use the Swiss topo layer factory on Android to create a layer and specify which layer you want. And then you can also configure stuff like, for example, the alpha transparency of your layer, and then add it to your map. Same goes on iOS. On iOS, we already have a little helper function that kind of gets rid of this one line of boilerplate code we still have on Android. This will for sure also come on Android. So you just call add Swiss topo layer on your map view, specify the type, and it's added. And then you, as a return value, get the layer back and can then configure your layer if needed. So with the with the WMTS capability parser, we now also have the possibility to add any layer that's provided by Swiss topo to your map. And I think there's around 600 layers that you can go ahead and use in this way in your app. So what else can you do with the SDK? Sometimes you will want to adjust the camera manually. So the user zooming and moving around in your map is one thing. Sometimes you want to zoom the map to a certain position. So you can access the camera by the map view get camera function. And then there are a lot of methods to move around the camera. You can also restrict the map bound. So for example, if you're only displaying data in the canton of Zurich, you can set the bounds to the canton of Zurich, so the user can only move around in this area. You can also restrict the minimum and the maximum zoom the user is allowed to. And yeah, just configure the map in a way that is useful for your app. So this is so far only the SwissTopo provided data that you can add, but sometimes you'll probably also want to add your own data on top of the SwissTopo data. There are already a couple of ways how you can do this. As already mentioned, there's a polygon layer that you can add where you define a polygon, give it some coordinates, define a color for the polygon, and you can also define a touch color for the polygon, and then add this layer to the map and define, if needed, a touch handler that then gets fired if somebody clicks on one of your polygons, which you then can use to display additional information on this polygon. And as we saw before, you also can add an icon layer if you want to add pins to your map or whatever icons you want to add. Simply create a pin layer, and you can also there set a callback if your pin gets clicked, and then do whatever is needed in your app. So this is all there. This is all ready to use. Of course, it is still early in the SDK. We will definitely need to find and fix one or the other bug. So this will happen soon. We're still working on it. And we also have quite a big roadmap of what other things we will need in the future and we will be doing. So on the roadmap, there's several things. We will really soon start with implementing vector maps as well. So far, we only have rastered maps that we can display, but vector maps is kind of the next bigger thing that we want to tackle and also include in the SDK. And we want to provide easy functionality so that you can store certain map areas offline and then display them also when you don't have internet connection. Further down the road, we will add 3D objects to the map that you can then look up either in 2.5D, where you have a 2D map and display some 3D objects on top of them, or fully 3D maps where you also have the topography of the map included. And this, in the end, should be also usable in a AR or VR setting, like we already have it in the SwissTopo app, that you can combine kind of the map with the real world. So this is kind of a really short overview. If you want more information, you can go to swisstopo.ch/SDK. There you can find the links to the GitHub repository, either for the Open Mobile Maps or the Open Swiss Maps SDKs. So with this, I am already at the end of my presentations. I will step down off the stage to answer your questions, and already thank you very much for your attention, and I'm happy to answer your questions. You're welcome. No, there's currently no demo application of the SDK in the App Store that you can run. You can, of course, check out the SwissTopo app that more or less is the same functionality as we want to build in the SDK, but it's not the same code base yet. So I cannot guarantee, but this is what we're going for. So this should be what is doable with the SDK as well. No, but you can go to GitHub and very easily, as I presented, you basically need like 3 lines of code, and then you have the Swiss Doppel maps and can try it out. So if you have X code, you can easily. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No, we were thinking about that already. At some point, we will definitely add some demo application to the store to just let you check it out easily. Yeah, that's a good point. Mhm.
Six.
You mean with the SDK or just in general for our apps? Well, yeah. I mean, in general, I would recommend to start with the Google Store because it's like the default one, and also you can then use a lot of the Google features that if you use the alternative stores, you have to always make sure that users who in the end use your apps also have like all the functionalities on your phone. So when you use the Google Play Store, you can be sure that your users will have the Google services on your phone, and this gives you a lot of nice features that you can then very easily use. So be it sending push notifications to your app, or also even handling the GPS location is easier when you can use the Google libraries that only work on phones that have the Google services installed. Yes, I mean, basically all the apps we showed are using our Map SDK. So not in this form as we published it in the open source repository right now, but I mean the basic functionality is the same. So those apps will sooner or later all be integrated with the open source SDK that we have now. Yes, so what we did is we created kind of a pretty cool AR and VR feature that is currently integrated in the SwissTopo app. I don't know if you already saw that one. And that under the hood is kind of using some of the same technologies we are using for the Maps SDK that we built now. But this is still kind of a long way to build all of that in a generic way that you can then provide it as an SDK. So yes, this is on our roadmap, but it's not like the most pressing feature for the moment, but will definitely come at some point. Exactly, yeah. Yes, that was in there as well. Yeah.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
You hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I think the challenge currently is to bring the switch between desktop and mobile. One thing that Geo.Hackmin was that you can design, draw your geometries on the desktop screen, and then share it via QR code or email to your mobile. You and use there your journey or your hiking trip, whatever. So Schweiz Mobile, which is using, I think as well your SDK, they made this switch between the ability of drawing um, on desktop and on mobile with a kind of awkward way, so that you switch actually out from the application the into the web and the mobile optimized website. So my question to you is, what do you think? What will be the future to combine mobile and desktop, but without user login? That's for me the big challenge. Any ideas on that?
I mean, for me, the question is a bit, will there be like in the future a gap between mobile and desktop, or will this be kind of a seamless translation? I mean, already nowadays with the new MacBooks, you can install a lot of apps already on your MacBook, and it's kind of the same experience as you have on your mobile device. And if Apple then decides that they synchronize your data between multiple devices, you kind of already have solved the problem. So I think at some point something like that will happen, that there's no like mobile devices and desktop devices, there's like smaller and bigger devices, and you will have shared data between your devices, and that will in the end solve the problem. Does that kind of answer your question?
Kinda. I mean, it's the tricky part is still to have the same experience on the desktop as in your mobile. Since as a government agency, we will always work with websites and not apps for
Yeah.
official data. And to grant the same, we can't actually force users to install an app.
Yeah.
That's an ethical question. Different opinions on that. See the ongoing electronic ID discussion. But how to provide that's the so web apps are an option. Yeah,
But
yeah.
I think there at some point we will actually lose this gap of installing apps. I mean, already nowadays, in theory, both Apple and Google have frameworks where you can
Yeah.
start a native app, but you don't have to install it. You go to a website and then you're suddenly in a native app. And I think somewhere there will the future be, that you
Yeah.
can use like the optimized hardware of your device, but you don't need to install an app explicitly. And I think somewhere there that you have kind of websites that are apps or that have the benefits of apps.
There are some, especially with maps on mobile devices, Apple really wants you to create apps, because otherwise you can't access all the gyros, all the sensors you actually want to have. So, well, that's a personal opinion. I think maps, Apple and Google are just killing the web, because they're forcing you to install the apps right now. So to access all the sensor information. I hope that will change in the future.
Yeah.
What's your take on that?
Well, I guess one thing is their business model. I mean, they want you to use their stores because they make a lot of money with their stores. The other thing is also kind of privacy reasons. You don't want to accidentally land on a web page that then can immediately access all your sensor information. So that's kind of the other part that you have to look at. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting how this will develop.
I hope they whitelist once in the blue moon as admin.ch for this. That will be nice.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
All right, any other questions? Do we have any other questions? I noticed that's an iWatch on your wrist. Is there some kind of Swiss Topo watch edition you could demo?
Not yet.
Well, definitely on the roadmap, I hope. So the best way to contact you is via GitHub issues?
Yes, with regards to the SDK, just create issues. We'll answer right away.
Perfect. And have you had a chance to see a bit what we're doing at the hackathon this week? Some of the project ideas going around.
No, I didn't have the time actually.
Well, you've got the chance now. I think we're going to do a quick run through.
Okay.
But thank you already so much for giving us a really awesome input. And there's still 2 days and some hours left, so plenty of time for someone to pick up the SDK and make a demo with it. The challenge is on the table, and if you want to, and we'll make sure to add it to our list of ideas with the links and any other documentation you want to send us. Can we get a copy of the slides as well to share?
Sure.
Yeah. And so Victoria, do you want to take over and run through our projects?
I could put up the page, or both pages actually, and then you can guide the discussions if that's fine.
That's fine by me. Mm-hmm. So could you maybe actually just sort that, not by, instead of new, by top, if you just click there on the button in the middle. Yeah, so yeah, top this past week. It doesn't. I think, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's still not showing the right word, but basically, yeah, this everyone's seen this. This is the discussion page where we've been pulling ideas for the past week, give or take, and a couple of these discussions have already become project pages. So maybe let's go to the platform and start with those. And anyone who's working on the project, please just feel free to walk us through what you're doing.
Maybe we can start with the most recently submitted project.
Sure.
Started project.
Do we have B4L on the call?
Yes. Okay. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I just created the project. It's nothing there yet. And maybe what's the state? Today I didn't work so much on the project, but I did extract data set, or I found a way how to do it from the TLM streets to generate the, find the right spot to hit the roads. So they are aligned in the images finally. Yeah, and what's to come is more interesting now that all the data preparation is kind of over. I think we will start modeling this evening or tomorrow, I think, to find out whether it works or not. Yes.
Very cool. Victoria, do you mind just clicking on the hand there in the middle of the screen? Oh, that goes to the email. Sorry. In that case, could you go to the discussion? So I'll make sure we fix that. The hand should point to the discussion, and it is not on the screen. Can you scroll? No, it's not shown at all. This GitHub discussion is pretty stunning. Maybe if you go back to that view before, if you click new, there it's the second one from the top.
Yeah, exactly.
I did see that there were some inputs today about I think the question we had around the geocoding or translating coordinate systems, something like that. So Hu Kwang is in contact with you. It sounds like he's working on this as well.
Yes, we work together on this.
Okay, great.
It's she supports me for the deep stuff.
Very good. All right. Yeah, so they're at the bottom. Thanks, David, for posting some inputs there to questions around elevation profile export and WMTS services.
Yes. Yeah, maybe I can ask the question directly to Dave, but we talked about this this morning, and I think it was a little mixed up, and it was part also from my issues. Like I wanted to annotate with map Geo.Admin. I just draw some points for some good examples, and then I wanted to export it as KML and read it with GeoPandas, but yeah, this is a little bit of trouble since it's only KML. And otherwise, I found it very easy to make some annotations with the drawing on the map. Actually, I like a lot. But then the export is, you also need to convert it finally. So this was not so nice. And the other thing, I was wondering, when I get a tile with VMTS and I have the matrix tile set and the row and column, how do I find the bounding box of this tile? I couldn't find any resources how to get this.
I dropped you some answers in the discussion forum.
Yes, I saw, but I still don't get it.
So you need to download from a specific extent the tiles.
No, if I know the matrix tile set, the zoom level, the row and the column, I get a picture. And I would like to know, where is this picture?
Yeah, WMTS doesn't work like this. In this case, you have rather to use WMS, because WMTS, you need a client to interpret the tiling scheme. So you're using in which software the WMTS service?
I was just fetching a random tile with Python.
Okay. In this case, if you want to download the data with a bounding box, you should use the WMS service. There you can state the bounding box, and you will get back this specific data set or area.
Okay.
The WMTS needs an interpretation, a library which interprets WMTS and the EPSG, the coordinate system.
Okay.
WMS is the solution here. And for exporting height or profiles as CSV or as JSON, you should use the profile service, which is also open right now.
Yes, it was not regarding profiles. For me, it was more to label features on the map. If I make drawings on the map and export this.
Then you have the option for KML, and there are many Python libraries which support conversion of KML to whatever you want, CSV or JSON.
Yes, it was just I was using GeoPandas, and I was trying the naive approach to just give the pass like a GeoJSON, and it somehow didn't work out. So.
Because GeoJSON will just give you back the geometries, but not the text label, or it's hard to get the text label right.
Okay.
Any other question?
Let's move towards the next project, just cognizant of the time. We've got about 10 minutes, and I would love to hear more questions from you, Balthazar. But let's just give someone else a chance to show their status. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks. So let's see what is it Jakob has been up to in the X-Detect project. Oh, okay.
Sorry, had another intuition.
Yeah, this was the wrong project. So yeah, I mean, I'm slowly moving forward. Yesterday evening, I did the first pass on training the classifier, and it went up to something like 80-90% validation accuracy, which is not great. So if you then sort of generate an overlay for the map, there's a lot of noise going on. So that certainly needs to be improved. And most likely, this is an issue of limited data. So I had, I think, 800 positive and 800 negative examples, where each image is about 100 by 100 pixel. So this seems to be not sufficient to train a good classifier. So now I was working on generating more and better data, and then play a bit with the parameters of the classifier to see how far we can push this. So that's the status. One upcoming question that I can already foresee is that in the end, I will basically be able to run the trained classifier on an image that I get from the dataset, and I will obtain the position in pixels, well, the position of the target object in pixels on the image, right? And then I was wondering, is there some tutorial or some description of how to translate these coordinates then into something more general that we might actually be able to display on a map? Do you understand the problem?
Not yet fully.
Okay, so basically I get an image from the Swiss image 10 centimeter dataset, and I obviously know the coordinates of that image, I guess.
Yeah.
It's probably somewhere in the JSON. But then I obtain sort of a position of the object that I'm interested in as an offset in pixels in the image. right? So now from that, I would like to go back to, well, I don't know, latitude, longitude, for example. So
you have to you downloaded the raw image, of course, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
The cogdiff.
Yeah, exactly.
And you have the bounding box of the cogdiff you find in the metadata.
Yeah, yes, I guess I can extract that easily. I mean, it should be.
And then it's you have, I think, the cogdiff. In the TIFF, you have also the information about the absolute position of the TIFF itself on the map, and then you can from the relative position of your pixel, you can then use calculate the absolute position of your object in the real world.
Okay, so I don't need to pay attention to any kind of, I don't know, maybe non-Euclidean form of the underlying geometry.
In what reference system is the data? Is it like the Swiss reference system or longitude, latitude?
It's Swiss reference system.
Okay, and then it's straightforward. And just multiply your pixel count with 10 centimeters, I guess, and add it as an offset.
Yeah, great. Yeah, that seems like the easiest solution, but maybe there's some distortion or something. I don't know.
No,
That's why I wanted to check.
The imagery is already completely correct, rectified, auto-rectified, and placed.
Okay, great. Cool. Then it should be straightforward.
That's advantage over raw satellite imagery.
Yeah, I'm glad I picked this data set. Thanks. Yeah, and maybe I mean, right now I'm really sort of brute forcing the data generation. So I have a script that allows me to basically scan the raw images for the object that I'm interested in. So I was thinking about using a more, I don't know, streamlined approach, I guess, using a map, for example, and then defining bounding boxes on the map of the target objects. Although I'm not entirely sure whether this is actually faster for what I have set up now, but we'll see.
Have you already looked at getting the actual object data from Swiss Topo?
No, I haven't.
Would you like help with that or anything else?
Yeah, so I think that would be an interesting next step or alternative to generate the data. I think I will start looking into that tomorrow, and then I would certainly appreciate some help with that.
All right. Feel free to write that down, or we'll spread the word.
All right. Thanks.
Are there questions from anyone else, or should we look into the next project on solar potential?
Sorry. Maybe just a quick follow-up. So if anyone is an expert in image processing or image classification, then I would be happy to talk about some more technical issues, maybe afterwards in a smaller group.
Sure, just grab one of the rooms.
I think we've already, for the solar potential, if I'm not mistaken, is in the red room at the bottom right. Yeah, we have Seb on the call. Sad, sorry. Doesn't look like he's here. So Sad's been working on this for the last couple of days, trying to get a calculation of solar potentials. So going, has anyone else worked on this? Wants to speak about it? Yeah. So some of the things he's been trying to do are quite similar to Jakob's project. He's been, for example, trying to use computer vision to detect solar installations, and compare that to models which predict, how much energy is being generated or potentially could be generated. So there's this link to the EPFL paper, which has quantified the entire potential of all the rooftops in Switzerland, which obviously took more than a couple of days to do. He's in contact with the authors about reusing some of their results, like the algorithm to validate it on on freshly obtained imagery and these newly available building data where he's been wondering about calculating volume and shape and so of rooftops. I'm pretty sure there's been also some discussion, Victoria, if you click on the hand at the bottom, I think at the very bottom, yeah. So you can see that he's been discussing this for a few days. Just scroll the way down. We had very helpfully today so exactly, there was a comment around the transformer functions yesterday, and he's also looked at the project Sonnendach, which was mentioned on Monday, and we tracked down the open source code of that, and he's been looking to potentially building on top of that or reusing some of the problems it solves. Ambrogio Folletti has been with us for a few hours today. He's from the Federal Office of Energy. They're behind these projects. We talked about some potential machine learning models that you could use, and yeah, there's some input on the BFE for some data. And 3 hours ago they had a quick chat here about Swiss Surface 3D data. And some additional questions that David answered just an hour ago. So yeah, you can see this is the discussion forum in progress. Very cool idea. I'm really glad someone's working on this energy data topic. There's an actual energy data working group at Open Data CH. So we've which had an event last summer, and we've pinged them about this project as well. So that's very cool. And yeah, I don't know if anyone has questions about this. Interest in helping out, just jump on the thread. So yeah, the fourth project on DripDat is just one I added. Inspired by this discussion we've had around how to make the process of opening geodata even more sustainable, and really looking at what the wider open data community could have as a role in keeping things going. I took some inspiration from the Gapminder Foundation, which is just really well known around the world for their work on promoting data literacy. And they have this project Open Numbers, where they collect statistics around data publications from around the world. A year ago, we had the project of COVID-19 monitoring, which was led by the Canton of Zurich, and we just made it really easy for people to jump in and add scrapers for their canton or any canton of Switzerland, which was still missing data, or help in the data cleansing efforts. And also, of course, build apps and whatever out of that. But that central project was just to keep the data publication effort sustained. And Figure NZ is a project from New Zealand, which really inspires me because it really makes it easy to understand kind of how the data evolves over time across all the different topics. So if you can imagine the thematic browser on Geo.Admin, when you click the link on the left, kind of being expanded with some views into how much data is out there on this particular topic, and how does the density of the data points change over the time, and so on. So this is the kind of metrics that I would love to to gather. Maybe something that could be material for workshops with journalists and so on. And right now I have just I have to say today I didn't find much time to work on this, but I'm committed to spending some at least nighttime hours to dig even further into the Stack API, which as David mentioned earlier to me, has just gigantic amounts of data. So we obviously need to deal with the fact that at other open data hackathons, we typically manage to cram everything into a 4 terabyte portable hard drive easily. Like we just have a couple of gigabytes. But here, just the challenge of downloading every byte of data is probably just too much for any kind of off-the-shelf local installation. We would need to have some kind of cloud-based thing. Anyway, there's the source code to the project I'm working on in the discussion. And yeah, and I guess what you've just seen, we have these 4 projects. Just really want to mention that this is kind of what we would love to see from everybody at the end of Friday, or latest by Saturday at lunchtime. We would really like to gather all your results. You can continue using the GitHub discussions. You can, please, if you're working on a GitHub repository, just drop a link in there. At a very minimum, like we'd love to see you continue work in the GitHub discussions. And if you're motivated, if you have time to create a pitch, to write a little bit up, just to code it, just to present it a little bit better in the form of a slide deck or video or live demo, which is the best option, then DripDat is there for you to do that, as the 4 projects have done. So now, does anybody from these discussions also want to speak up and share what you're doing? For example, is anyone here been working on this Overpass Turbo project? There are 17 responses to that idea. This was talking about OpenStreetMaps, technology, platform, and also there's some discussions about MapLibre here, GraphQL. So a lot of talk about just porting data from one gigantic community to another. Oops, my screenshot is broken, as I just mentioned. Okay, I guess not. Anyone else have something to share that's maybe not even here? Just something cool you're working on. You want to just put it out there. In that case, I'm just gonna be mean. I'm gonna pick on a couple of people. I don't think we had Christoph introduce yourself. At least I haven't seen you much in Gather. Do you want to just say hi? Quick introduction. Also Ralph and Michael. We know who you are, but you haven't been around much.
Hi together. I'm only here because I'm project leader for Swiss Topo app, and I want to hear about the Swiss Topo SDK from Simon. That's the only point I'm here, and I'm not from the technical side. I'm product manager. And the most thing I heard today now, the last hour, I cannot understand, but that's technical. But this I have especially.
Well, welcome, Christoph, and I really hope you get something out of this hackathon format. This is an experiment. This is a prototype. We're super happy to be working with you guys on this. Maybe you'd recruit someone for your development efforts, or think about.
This I have my guys by Ubique.
maybe Ubique can cast some job offers. It's definitely not all about talking shop. It's also about networking and creating opportunities for each other. But yeah, awesome. Thanks a lot for joining and hanging in there. And
thanks to you. And a nice tool, this Gather Town. I like it.
Thank you very much.
Really cool.
Yes. You make sure you explore the outdoor area. You'll find it familiar. There's an exit at the far left.
Yeah, I will see.
Just don't get lost. A few people got really lost in the woods.
Okay.
Great. And anyone else? Michael, do you want to? Oh, he's just dropped off. Ralph, do you want to say hi? I want to say hi to you. You kind of jumped in there in the middle of conference.
I'm one of the Ralphs. So hi, everybody.
Hey.
Hi.
I'm by work this week, unfortunately, so I'm really participating very superficially and dropping in occasionally, maybe sometimes answering a remote sensing or coordinate reference system question. I hope that has been useful, but it's interesting to see what you all have been working on. It's quite impressive what's coming together already after such a short time.
Thank you so much for all your encouragement and support. This event builds on the foundations of the Geo community that you and your colleagues have been working on for years. I noticed that we were discussing earlier today that the Twitter thread that you have with Open Data Swiss about the evolution of Swiss open data laws. Any comments that any things we should be aware of?
Apparently there's a law coming that mandates opening data at the federal level. It seems to be necessary. And I just learned today that I've been a bit mistaken as to where we stand with open data in Switzerland, because we have the second strategy already, which posits open data by default or open by default. But then the flowchart that is being considered for opening up data actually first has a question: do you even have a legal basis for opening data? And unless you have legal basis, you can't open data as a federal authority, which to me is quite puzzling, but that's something I learned today. But it seems we are in the process of writing such a law, which addresses open data more generally at the federal level. So hopefully SwissTopo will soon be joined by other federal agencies which open their data up to the public.
Absolutely. I mean, they've been pioneers for at least 2013, right? And I think I think there's a lot we could do as a community. I mean, even just pointing out this you're talking about the handbook Open Data Swiss flowchart. Is that the one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just making the community aware that this is happening, and this process are happening, but also that this is going to impact them, and that we live in a democracy, and you have the ability to speak up, and send a letter, or voice your concerns, or just have a discussion on social media like you're doing today is really important. Right. So, one things that we've been thinking about is like this morning we talked about the terms of the conditions of use, published by SwissTopo. Very legible, very clear, but still there's just unanswered questions, and people need help to understand. What does fair use mean? What is an appropriate way to attribute something? And maybe some tools, like Wikimedia has, to make it really easy to embed an image on your blog. Maybe we need some really simple tools for people who reuse maps and other data sets.
Yeah, hopefully these tools are coming. Actually, I think we were quite lucky in Geo-Information with regards to open data, because Geo-Information law from, 2008, I think, actually mandates, Dave gives a thumb up. So actually that law mandates to open up certain services and certain data to the public. And that was before we talked about open data in Switzerland. So that's why I think SwissTopo had the opportunity and possibility to go ahead and opening their data up much sooner than other federal agencies maybe.
Yeah, well, it's been a long day, but if you want to post something on DripDat or on our discussion forum, activate some more brain cells on this topic, inspire your fellow geographers and map coders and so on to pay attention to what you're doing, please do. Please do. Thanks. You're extremely welcome. Okay. Anyone else want to take the floor? Otherwise, I'll let Victoria guide us towards Feierabend.
Ooh, That's a very great task, but I have a question before we jump into that to you all. So we have like 2 more morning sessions left, and I would like to hear your input of what you would like to use the morning sessions for. On our side, from cividi, we could give like a quick intro into data packaging, if that's of interest. So if you're interested, could you please raise hands?
Number 6, right?
Yeah. Okay, then we may do that tomorrow morning. And any other input you would find valuable in the morning sessions. Okay, then we just suggest to keep sharing the project progresses. And yeah, as Oleg mentioned, if you have new ideas and you don't really have time to work on it, but you think it would be great if someone would, just put it in the discussions or open a project so that others can pick up the topic and benefit from it. Tomorrow in the afternoon, we will hear a presentation from Lucy, a Lucerne-based startup Kamu company working similarly to cividi in the urban planning field, but working a lot with volume data and building data. So they are trying to replicate the physical GIBS models in virtual digital space. So I think it will be quite interesting. They build a lot on top of SwissTopo data, so I think you will have a great chance to discover how it's used in the urban planning field in their section, and then you will also have a chance to ask questions from Martin, who may or may not celebrate his birthday tomorrow, so be nice to him.
Very cool. And then we'll be on our way towards the weekend. I already see a lot of tweets about Open Data Day on Saturday. Really don't forget that 3 o'clock we'll find our way here for the final presentations, and we're going to try to make a big splash and connect to the world out there and promote all your work. So thank you so much for being with us tonight, and cheers. The bar is west of here.
Yeah, right before the mountains.